What's up, everybody? This is Jay, and this video is about Power Book 2. Did Ghost know Tejada? Now, a lot of people have been asking and speculating whether or not Lorenzo Tejada may have known Ghost or James St. Patrick, or if they had crossed paths, or even maybe Tommy as well. And I'm gonna go ahead and get into that, break it down, and explain to you my thoughts on that matter. Now, first off, before we get into it, I just want to say that people underestimate the size of New York City. It's so big, so many people, so much going on that it's not that easy for everybody to know everybody and what they got going on. Now, just to think, Ghost in the first couple seasons didn't even understand that Kanan was coming for him, and there's so much going on. They were looking for new Primaras, different things, and it's just not that simple. So to make it short, I'm gonna break it down, but I do not think that they knew each other. Now, we see that in this rendition, I put that if they ever did come face to face, what may or may not have happened. But you think about the way the show went, Ghost never really came face to face with anybody but his Primaras, and if that wasn't the case, then they would have never met, because even when in season 1 his people was getting hit, they didn't know who he was, and they only had Julio deal with him. And then also you got to keep in mind, James St. Patrick kept his life separate from being Ghost, and so a lot of people even now don't know that he had a criminal element about him, and he didn't have a record. If you remember when Angie checked up on him on the computer, he had no criminal record. He had no ties to any type of drug underworld. He wasn't locked up yet, and so it would be no way for him to have possibly met Tejada, because they didn't have to do business together, and he already had his Primaras. And for one, the Tejada family is a smaller family-run organization that wasn't as large as what James St. Patrick is, because they are basically the Tejada family. They are Primaras, and they need the dope from somebody, a distro like Ghost. That's why they were trying to get that connect from everybody else, Rico and different things, because they don't have the real connections. They are the Primaras trying to move it, so they almost at the street level. And Ghost, he was on a different level. He would have been supplying them. Now, we don't know exactly how much power Tejada has in prison, but he does have a lot of pull and a lot of power in prison. We don't know exactly how he got that. Now, we know when Ghost went into prison, he didn't really have any pull or any power. He had to break Little Biscuit arm for trying to grab him in the biscuits, but for the most part, Tommy had more power in prison and connections because of his dad. And because of that connection, they was able to move dope in the prison, and he was able with Tony Teresi to get little things, make that was their connect. He used that as a pipeline until the prison guard messed it up. Nevertheless, Ghost, he has no way of knowing Lorenzo Tejada, in my opinion. Yeah, they came from similar boroughs in New York, but different time periods. So they from the same borough, but Ghost moved out of that borough years ago, and so he wasn't really operating in it like that, and he was having the different Primaras that they would distribute. So we don't know how long the Tejadas were operating there, what they were doing, who was their connect. Sometimes in the dope game in big cities like that, you have people working together and they don't even realize, or they're working not necessarily together sometimes, but near each other, and don't even realize they're both doing the same type of work, selling dope, and they were low key. So I think that maybe even if they were both active during the same time, neither of them realized it. Similar to how when Tasha moved into that neighborhood with the daycare, and it was a guy selling dope over there. And so, like, everywhere you go is somebody that got a little slice of the pie, a little piece of the hood. And Tasha didn't know who they were, or Tommy and Ghost. Nobody knew who he was. And so she ended up having to deal with him on her own, trying to make something happen. But it just shows when you're dealing with a big city, it's so many moving parts, so many people trying to come up, so many different hustles, grinds, whatever you would want to call it, that it's almost impossible for a regular person, to know what everybody's doing. Now, had he had been a police or a surveillance or something to that effect, it would be different. But you got to keep in mind, he's trying to stay low key as well, both of them. So they're still trying to operate, but at the same time, they don't want to be snooping around and bring too much attention to themselves as well. Tejada is already trying to fight whatever case that he has. We've seen that Monet seems to feel he got a few more years left, maybe 7 years or so. She upset, blames him in a way that she's the one and stuck having to lead the family, and he's in prison. I guess we'll figure out a little bit more about what happened in season 2. We have seen, little articles and things on the computer and different things when people have been snooping around, whether it be Professor Milgram or others. But when we really get deep into what happened with Tejada, we'll find out. Maybe he may get out of jail early. It seems there is something that happens on this show, and maybe we'll see that something happens for Tejada and he's out. I'm wondering to see how this Monet and the Tejada family are going to hold it together, especially with Tariq on the fence with working with them or trying to be there for his mother. We know he got her out of town in the last episode, but knowing Tasha, she ain't going to listen, and she'll probably be back. Now, as far as Kane, we'll see how his relationship goes with Tariq. He wants to be the head of the family of the Tejadas, but he has to respect Monet because Lorenzo installed her as the head of the house, and you got to think of them instead of like a corporation. That was James, St. Patrick, and Tommy. They ran a corporation, a business. Whereas you got to think of the Tejadas as it's a family-run thing, and there's a little closer, tight-knit group. Not as much money as Ghost and Tommy was bringing in. I mean, they not living the way Ghost and Tommy was, but they not living bad. You see Monet is more worried and struggling with not having extra distro or outlets to move the weight, and so now she's relying upon Tariq. So we'll see how that all turns out in the end, but we'll see. I think the Tejadas never cross paths with Ghost and Tommy. I think the city is just so big, so much going on, so diverse, and I just don't think that they possibly cross paths. And one way of kind of showing is that when Monet put the gun to Tommy inside the cemetery, he said, "Hey, who got the balls to put a gun on me?" And she said, "No balls, just a upper hand and a cold piece of steel." And so that whole conversation, if you really think about it and pay attention to it, they didn't know each other. And that was their first encounter. And so we'll see how that all turns out. I don't think that Tommy wants to meet her again, and I don't think she wants to see Tommy again, especially with all the frustration that he got built up between Tasha and Ghost and Tariq. It's just not looking good for him. And so I'm looking forward to Tommy laying down the law, regulating, getting revenge for his fallen comrade and brother Ghost. But that will probably take place in book 4. So as far as the Renzo Tejada situation, I don't see Tommy maybe dealing with him unless he's trying to find some way to circumvent Tasha or Monet. Because remember, if Tommy is able to somehow get a hold of Tasha, or maybe she tries to use Lorenzo as some way to try to help Tariq or help her situation, because she does have his phone number, then maybe that's one way it could pull him into dealing with Tommy. But we'll see. We'll see in the end when it all plays out, before the Tejada story is over with. I'm pretty sure that the writers and everybody will show and answer the question if they ever met up, if they ever dealt with each other. We see that Monet had no clue who Tariq was or anything about Ghost or the family, and she's starting to learn when they was at the cemetery. So will she start to investigate and tell Lorenzo a little bit more about who they dealing with, or is she gonna leave it alone? Is he gonna start to figure out and wonder more about it and try to put 2 and 2 together? Because maybe she knows that James St. Patrick is Tariq's dad and that he killed him, but she ain't put together that he was Ghost. So we'll see. I want you all to let me know in the comments below whether you all think. Do you think that they knew each other? Do you think that the city got too much going on, they didn't know? You let me know. Don't forget, you can catch me live every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, and I'ma talk nothing but power. So make sure you there every Monday at 8, and I'll see you on the next episode. Peace.